we are live with episode 11.
Oh, yes.
More Dichroma, less chaos.
Even though this won't be specifically about Dichroma, it'll be regarding all of RC7.
Stay tuned for a specific Dichroma episode. It'll come eventually. But right now, we're going to talk about the entirety of RC7, which does technically include Dichroma. So,
For those who have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, RC7 is the continuation of RC6.
couldn't have said it better
That
myself.
is all there is to that story.
Essentially, yes. So, I think we can start. Well, I think we should go in order of the elements that are released throughout the week, starting with Mondays. So, Monday we can start with Earth, and then we can move on to Fire, Thunder, Water, Dark, Light, Dichroma. Does that work?
All right.
Cool. And that's pinned in the BF Raiders chat if you need it. So, what we want to do in this episode is kind of go over not necessarily strategies, but what Fafnir and I would do. What we would be interested in doing for team building, for running specific things, stuff like that. Sorry, people are walking in. Okay, anyway, so...
This is going to be the most cynical episode from my end.
Yes,
but
very
probably
much
the
so.
most heartfelt from his.
I love RC7. It's awesome. I'm a huge fan. But at the same time, it's extremely frustrating. So, we'll start with Earth, what teams we would build, and how we go about doing that.
What team to build for Earth?
I mean, what team I run. So we can start with Earth. I will talk about my team for Earth, which is nuking it with fire. And I'm going to be honest, I am full Pingu when it comes to this. What I run is actually a monofire team of Juzo lead, 4 Inoko, and Annette. Annette friend. And that means that I have my spark buffs, my elemental weakness buffs covered, and I cap crit for the most part. And those Inokos are going to blast everything down with AoE damage, and the Juzo is going to cover me with single target, so I make sure that those arms are dead. That's pretty much it for me.
Yep. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I run a similar squad. I run 2 Juzos and Inoko and 2 Bakugos with my own Annette as friend, because none of the Annette friends on my list had the correct SP taken, or one of my friends has it completely unsphered. Thanks for being helpful. And my strategy is to just focus the arms until they die, turn my focus to the body, kill it, and then move on. Fire RC7 is not necessarily a raid do anything super complicated in order to get far. I just need to outlast it until it falls. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, the only real threat that you're going to run into in Fire RC7, or in Earth RC7 with a fire team, is going to be DOT. And if you're honestly, if you're really struggling, you could slot a Yamori. Yamori is going to help deal with that DOT.
I think the only thing that I'll note for Fire is that Fire only has one reviver, which is Fang. And that means that if you die, that means that you're pretty much stuck until you get out of the fight by either fleeing or smoke bomb or by actually fully dying. So your solution to that is to either flee liberally or just don't die.
Essentially.
I feel like that's going to become a trend if I use that as advice, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
Geodes help.
Yeah, Geodes are great.
Geodes help.
Geodes are great for really any difficult content. I mean, for the most part, if you're running a Geode, you're not going to be really too worried about getting Paradigm on your team. And if you are really struggling, you can slot that Geode, and it really will be a game changer. Geode is very powerful.
For sure.
Pretty much cover it for Earth RC7? Oh, Lord.
They're asking Amos or Yamori for RC Earth. I would prefer Amos, if only because she simplifies what I would need to slot. But Yamari is pretty good if you're just going for raw damage, or if you just want to see a big boy smack
He's a big,
a
beefy
Revenant's
boy.
arm.
Yeah. Um, so that pretty much covers it for Earth RC7. It's pretty straightforward, and in all honesty, Fire is a very LE heavy team, which is true for every team, but especially Fire. So if you're really struggling, you might as well, I hate to say it, but leech, or, enlist your friends to help. There are tons of resources that can help you out with that. So next
I
up
have
is...
to imagine. I have to imagine anyone who's watching this on YouTube and doesn't know us from Brave Network probably think that we are just the most conceited, money grubbing assholes to ever exist when they hear our teams for the rest of these.
Oh, you guys are gonna hate me when I get to Dichroma. um,
You'll
okay,
hate
next.
me either an equal amount or maybe even a slightly larger amount, even though my team is less effective overall.
I'm gonna hate you for what your team is because I lack it, but we'll get to that. So next up is the Fire Boss, which means that you are running an water team, and if you are running a water team, you know what that means? Sovenar.
It means Sylvanars.
I'll let you start with your team for this one because I think we actually have the same
Oh
team.
boy. I think I actually have not run this in a while, so I forget what my actual. I think it was Sovenar lead with another Sovenar, Florence, Vale, and I think I picked Saren.
For that BC on Spark.
With a Gazelle friend.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal was essentially, if the Gazelle friend has the right spheres, then I can easily get UBB off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can Sovenar Gazelle UBB loop until the boss dies, though generally I don't have to loop because, I mean, it's Sovenar UBB against a fire boss. It's going to die.
Yeah. In all honesty, Sovenar is extremely powerful. And while she does lack, people always go, oh, she lacks elemental weakness damage on her UBB. The Fire RC7 boss is genuinely going to crumple underneath Sovenar because she just hits that hard on her UBB, and her UBB applies such great buffs that it's just gonna die. And if it doesn't, you've got a couple of turns to do it. So
you can also alternate with, I think, Gazelle UBB.
Elemental weakness damage.
Elemental weakness damage. That's what I've started doing.
Then you're really gonna wreck things.
Yeah. And that's what I like. I like seeing things die repeatedly.
Precisely.
I have gotten DBB a grand total of once against these bosses.
Mm-hmm.
It was against one particularly annoying beta, but it's not like the beta could hurt me. It was just stalling out the fight, so it just died the second I DBB'd on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, these raids are, if you have strong teams and strong spheres, ridiculously easy. And if you don't, you're going to struggle, but you still really have a good chance of clearing them if you try and put in the effort and know what you're doing. Especially since Sovenar BB is single target. If you're struggling with killing body before arms, you can just straight fire off some Sovenar BBs and really wreck those arms.
Yep.
Okay, so next up, Thunder.
Oh boy. Why don't you do your team first?
Oh god. Okay, my team is considerably less impressive than what you're about to hear from Fafnir. My team is, I believe I use... my team's ridiculous. Okay, I use Vrana. I think I use Sheriff Lead. Yeah, Sheriff Lead, Vrana...
Wait, what?
No, I use Vrana Lead.
I thought we were doing Earth.
Oh, I said Thunder.
Did we skip Earth?
Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I confused Thunder as using a Thunder element. I'm so sorry. Okay, so actually we're using Earth. Earth is even more ridiculous in some ways than Thunder. So my Earth team is probably going to look like... I believe that... I haven't done it in a while, but I was running Dranoel's, Nia... I think I was running like Dranoel, Nia... Ondaria, Aramat, Senbon lead and an Aromat friend or something like that. And essentially, my strategy was what most other people do, which is just first turn you get your Aromats to do. Well, first turn you kind of just have to hope that you don't get crushed because, as you know, Aromat has negative mitigation, so you kind of have to counteract that. But if you don't get crushed, then you'll fill your overdrive gauges with your Aromats, and then you'll UBB your Ondaria, and you get 80% evasion, which basically means, hooray, you win! And then you basically just beat the shit out of it while keeping evasion buff. Oh my god. Evasion buffs up. That was a tough one to say. As often as possible, which is basically constantly, and then you beat the shit out of the boss until it dies and move on to the next one. It's semi-RNG based just because of that first turn, but other than that, it's all a joke.
Fun fact, I have seen maybe one person attempt to do, I guess he's calling it Thunder RC7. I would call it Earth RC7.
Yeah.
I have only seen one person attempt to do that with a tank, and that person gets super salty because what usually happens is meticulously put this squad together, and then you've got either Recoome with his squad or my squad, which is basically a variation of what he does, except a little bit more optimized. So I'm running Sinbon Zakura Miku lead with Ondaria, Arumat, and 2 Baileys with an Arumat friend. And essentially what this allows me to do is hit every part at once so hard that they all die. So I don't even need to worry about AoE damage because it's already dead.
Yeah, it's just you kill both the arms and the body at the same time. And it's just, bye-bye, it's a joke. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about Earth RC7 because it really is just evasion cheese.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any tips for anyone not doing evasion cheese. Like, I remember recommending a squad to someone who didn't have the ability to do this for Earth, and I was like, if you really want to get far with RC7 Earth, just wait for a carry for it. That's really the simplest way to go about it. Earth is not an element that really excels in defense, even though it has the tools to do so. Primarily because what Earth wants to do is just kill the boss in 5 minutes and move on.
Yeah,
which is
basically.
Also, ironically, what all of the players want to do. So this is what we all do.
Yeah. And theoretically, you could run an Ondaria friend, and that would do you some good. Just because you got the
Ondaria
UBD there,
friend,
she's
yeah, that would work.
got a great leader skill, elemental weakness damage on it. The only real issue with Ondaria is that her spark is only self spark on UBB. But regardless,
also because if you're
EWD
running
on
Ondaria friend, that means you can't run Arumat friend, which means you'll have less overdrive fill at all because of not having 2
you'll have
Arumat.
to optimize your team around overdrive fill, which will hurt your damage, but it's still possible.
Just don't run Miel.
Yeah,
That's
please don't
just
run
weird.
Miel. If you're running Miel, I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna slap you, just like I said yesterday.
What are you doing?
I like what Omega said.
I mean, if you're running her on a tank squad, great. But
yeah. Omega said it's literally budget Timlo. Like, that's almost what it is. Like, if you had an extra action, you would essentially be Timloing. But what you're doing is just recast evasion cheesing, which is kind of hilarious because it's just one step away from Timlo. If we had a Juzo for all allies for Earth, you could do it. But maybe someday with the power creep.
Yep.
Next up is water, which now we can move on to what I wanted to talk about, which was the Thunder team.
Oh yes.
So I'll go
Why don't
first,
you go
since
first?
mine sucks. Sheriff lead, Vrana, Non. Because I use Non for overdrive fill, and then I think I have like a Tavarius in there. I don't know. My Thunder has changed massively lately, but the last time I ran it was like that, Tavarius and Fenia, and then probably like a Vrana friend or something like that. So it really wasn't great. It was optimized for killing arms, but at the same time, all the Thunder raids that I do are with Fafnir, and he just carries the shit out of me. So.
Yep. And then there's my team, which is going to make people upset. So my team for RC7 Thunder, as I call it, is Deku lead with 2 more Dekus, a Mord and a sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I run into various friends so that the Dekus don't die while I'm attempting to just cheese the hell out of every fight. And no boss survives that. They just don't. Everything dies.
It's not even that he kills the boss. The boss kills itself out of fear of seeing all those Dekus.
This is the true power of one for. It's the true superpower of nukes. I don't know
Unfortunately
where I was
so.
going with that.
I don't know. It was somewhere. um, but yeah, that's really all there is for Thunder. I mean, Thunder doesn't have a whole lot of trouble with things just because Deku exists, and chances are one of the people in your room is going to have a Deku. And if they have a Deku, it's game over. If they have more than one Deku, it's really game over. um,
Oh yeah.
so, I mean, if you're struggling with really any of these, the advice is going to be the same over and over, which is summon for better units when they come out, improve your spheres. Over time, things will get better. It's difficult. I agree with what Zenia-sama said in the Twitch chat, which is that it is difficult to UBB with Thunder sometimes, depending on what you have for fillers. But if you have the right units, you can do it, and especially spheres matter. Things like Vesper Argentum, Chrysalis Zeta, and Vrana's Calling. Vrana's Calling is a super easy one to get. You just need Oroby shards from doing RC7. That's an easy one to get. Go for it. Once you have that
Just
OD
pick
fill,
whatever
everything else
element
is a
you're
joke.
best at and do it over and over again.
Exactly. Next up, Dark, which is a light team against Dark.
This is where his team technically beats mine, but we still manage to balance each other out.
Because his spheres are OP and mine suck. So, what I run, and this may have changed with the advent of Kaneki, but not that much, right? I literally just run Hakuzo lead, 3 Chizurus, a Q-Tong, and a Hakuzo friend. And I don't run a vanilla friend like I would in Dichroma because I genuinely don't care. I just want to destroy things, right? So my goal is I basically just come in, fill BB gauges, use my Chizurus to fill that, use my Q-Tong, and usually those OD spheres are put in place to help fill the missing overdrive. Overdrive turn 1 and just beat the crap out of the boss in 3 turns. Move on to the next one. It takes less than 10 minutes.
I feel like I would literally just carry my Dichroma squad straight.
I mean, yeah, you certainly can.
Vanilla lead with Chizuru, 2 Kanekis, a Q-Tong, and a Hakuzo friend is what I run for light.
Mm-hmm.
Though depending on what happens, I might run Kaneki lead instead. Depends on crit, how much I feel lucky with crits. That if I don't, then I might go with Kaneki lead. But
yeah,
it's not really a huge. I don't think it'll make a huge difference either way.
Yeah, I mean, light is genuinely the most stacked element in my opinion. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Some people may disagree. I think light is stacked as fuck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
I don't think anyone is going to argue that.
Yeah, the thing with light really here, like more than all of the others, is that it just destroys things. So if you've got a Kaneki, you've got a Chizuru, you've got a Hakuzo, you've got those things, you can absolutely just crush it. If you don't, I can almost guarantee you that with the both of those collabs being recent, someone in your room probably does. If not, find a friend who does, because I guarantee you there are friends of yours that are Pingus like me and have 3 Chizurus.
Or like me, who don't have 3 Chizurus, but are willing to make things work and still are able to beat the boss into the dirt.
Yeah, light boss, or dark boss with a light team, it's over. That thing, light hits just so hard.
As long as you're not trying to like all might nuke it, you should be fine.
Yeah, pretty much. So, that pretty much covers light team. Next up we can do dark team, and then after that, Dichroma.
I feel like Dichroma is going to overlap, but I feel like for reference we should post what both our lights and our darks would be for Dichroma, but we can get to that when we get to that. In the meantime, dark. Do you want to list your squad first?
I mean, my squad is really shit. I think I use... Because for some reason, I know that a lot of people have a really hard time in dark raids, unless you are super OP like Faf. I personally have a hard time, and normally what I would run is something along the lines of, and I think I do Issir lead. Isir lead. What do I do? Isir. Oh no, Kares lead. Three Liko, probably a spark buffer like Hadaron or Ensa. I've been using Hadaron lately because he's a bit tankier, but I know most people prefer Ensa. And then a friend. I mean, it doesn't. At that point, it's not a huge deal what you run as a friend because for me, I'm getting carried because my dark sucks. But if you want to run a good friend, you can go for Katerin. Katerin's got a great leader skill and OD fill on BB. That's what I would
Yeah,
run.
that works. Uh, I'm gonna list off my dark team first, and then I'm gonna kind of rip into something that you just said,
Mm-hmm.
but we can get to that.
Mm-hmm.
So my dark is Zareth lead with Xenon, Kranis, two Acnos, and then I usually run a Liko friend if I'm doing Dichroma,
Mm-hmm.
but I would probably swap to. Oh, there really isn't a good option to replace. Either an Isir lead or maybe another Kares lead. Maybe even a no, Katerin. Katerin. Yeah, I would run Katerin friend.
Yeah.
And that basically kills everything. I can get overdrive because of both spheres and the units being used. Uh, in Dichroma, I have a choice of DVVs to use between Xenons if they decide to do Black Death, and Kranis's if I ever get hit with charging Rapid Heal, which seems to be what he likes to do whenever I'm running Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I want to challenge the assertion that Dark is for if you aren't like an Omega Tengu. It really isn't.
Yeah.
It just requires some work towards it. And I think that the unit that most solidifies this in my mind is a unit that Recoome actually missed that was free, which is Orochi Iori,
True.
who is one of Dark's best nukers, is an at-based triple attacker, was completely free, and you could get multiple of him.
Mm-hmm.
And this combined makes him utterly absurd.
Yeah.
You can literally nuke down, like, Orochi Iori is just the starting kit for nuke.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got things, other free-to-play dark things, like, I guess Hadaron's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Isir is most definitely an option.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you would have to run a mitigator friend, so I guess Carries fills that slot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Keelazar could be your UBBer at first, I guess, even
Mm-hmm.
though he wouldn't have Master of the Hunt. I'm trying to think of who else would fill a slot in Dark that's free to play. I know I'm forgetting some.
For
Yeah, I
dark,
can't think of it off the top of my head,
I
but
don't know.
I know there's at least one more free to play Dark unit that's strong enough to stand among those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with all of that combined, Dark is probably the most free to play element to get behind.
Yeah.
I just some people are saying Samira. I don't know if they're strictly free to play, but I will say that yeah, Samira definitely works. Oh, Save, duh. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
Save is a little bit of a lesser form of Orochi Iori, but
Mm-hmm.
he does.
He puts in work.
Shion, Shion, yeah, Shion works to an extent.
Mm.
Perfect UBB for Dichroma, as if vaporized defenses is
Ooh.
delaying.
um, I actually am a big fan of Sabe and have been since he came out because he stacks Dark Spark on top of the Spark that you already have on SBB, which is awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all I have to say. The only reason that I really get carried so hard in, you know, with dark teams is because I just am shit and am lazy. So, to be bluntly honest, I hate using dark. Mostly because it reminds me that my light team is sitting right over there and it's so OP. And then there's this one, which not so much.
Oh, Illusin and Illumina.
Great unit.
I completely forgot about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, great unit.
Wow.
I really like Elucid and Illumina, just because they're useful in a lot of
Thanks,
different content,
Omega,
including
for
Glad.
correcting me.
Yeah. So I'd say that covers Dark. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. So last but not
Uh,
least, Dichroma.
Definitely not least.
Well, yeah, definitely not least.
So the first thing that I'll note for Dichroma is that the current meta at the moment is to have 3 people running light squads and 1 person running a dark squad.
Mhm.
And the reason for this is twofold. Light is by far the easier element to nuke down Fury with,
Mhm.
both due to it being more stacked and due to it being relatively huge nukes against Fury with Light.
Mhm.
Whereas Dark is basically the cleanup crew. Its job is essentially to take
Oh wow,
on
sorry, you're lagging. Hold on.
Light to kill, and also to try and push through Fury's light phases as fast as possible so that the light allies of yours can deal with it on their own.
Mhm.
Unless you're like super OP, in which case you can probably deal with it with a modified version of that.
Mhm.
In fact, I've seen some people just go full light and be fine, but you need some really strong people for that.
Yeah, you do. Um.
With
So.
that in mind, it's also worth noting that for both elements, I know that vanilla and Lico leads are almost required.
Mhm.
Just one of them, not 2 of them, but every single like big meta Dichroma squad that you'll see will almost always involve either a vanilla lead or a Dichroma lead.
Mhm.
Or did I just say a vanilla or a
You
Dichroma? I
did
meant
say a vanilla
vanilla
or a Dichroma
Lico.
lead.
I
OP.
am clearly sleep deprived.
Fury lead. Too strong.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's the basic
Mhm.
gist.
Yeah. So what I would say about Dichroma, before I say anything else, and I think I've reiterated this about 1 billion times on this podcast, Dichroma is the hardest content in the game. It is end game. It is extremely difficult. Requires not only good squads and good spheres, but coordination. It requires you to know what you're doing and to be able to support your team however you can. And so for people like me, I just throw Chizurus in a squad with a Hakuzo lead, a Q-Tong, and a vanilla friend, and I'm fine. But if you're not quite that level of Pingu, then you're gonna be focusing more on optimizing those units with good spheres. I can't stress this enough in every piece of content that spheres matter so much. And people don't seem to realize this a lot of the time when they ask, why can't I clear Dichroma? It's because your spheres are lacking. You can have you can have 3 Kanekis, you can have 3 Chizuru, but if your spheres aren't strong, you're gonna struggle. And
The
so,
face when you
mhm.
like you're talking to someone and they're like, I can't clear Dichroma, and then they show you your spheres and they're like their Chizuru is equipped with Vulcan axe.
All right, that's painful. And so, what I do for Dichroma with my Pingu squad is basically just optimizing Chizuru's damage, but for other people, the main strat overall is UBB looping. You want to have 100% mitigation up at all times because Fury is going to destroy you. He has the pierce effect on your mitigation, so you need 100% mitigation up so you can hit really hard. Or so you can hit really hard. So you can not get hit really hard. On top of that, he's still going to hit you really hard, so you're going to want sources of reviving. And on top of that, something to remember is that if you run away from Fury, he heals himself by 30% and increases his max HP by 30%. So you need a team that can stand up to him without feeling the need to run or just dying first turn.
If
That's
you run from Fury, then that earns you a free slot on the blacklist of
precisely.
everyone else that you were raiding with.
Mm-hmm. It will piss
Use a
everyone off.
smoke bomb or die.
Precisely. On top of that, vanilla lead, obviously, or vanilla friend, so that not only for that survivability, the 50% damage reduction from all types for the first 2 turns is great, but also because you need crit. You need some kind of source of good crits that you're capping or getting close to capping, because another thing, while you're optimizing survivability, you're also optimizing damage. so that run goes really quickly because you only get 30 minutes to kill a Dark Rev, a Light Rev, and a Fury, which is can be hard for some people who aren't familiar with how to deal with Fury.
More like Fury just decides sometimes that runs cannot possibly
He's
succeed
so
and just
frustrating.
stalls everything out.
Fury, for the last 10%, is the single most frustrating thing in this entire game, in my opinion, currently. Simply because he'll just do stuff like, oh, nice mitigation, vaporized defenses. It's pretty cool that you have full BB gauges. I'm gonna mana purge you and empty your BB gauges. So he basically vaporized defenses, removes your mitigation, and any evasion effects that you have. Mana purge will empty all of your units' BB gauges, except anything that's 0 BC. On top of that, he'll then do things like, hey, guess what? Massive bomb and kill your entire squad after he nulls all of your angel idols. So there are just a lot of components of Fury is RNG, but it's also being able to build your squad in a way that counteracts that RNG as best as you can.
Yep.
That's all I really have to say about the light side of things. It's just beating the shit out of it, and Dark is there to clean up in light phase to make sure that things go through as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say that the reason that we run dark is because sometimes if you're either not running a dark or if the dark is not strong enough, the light rev can actually end the run.
Mm-hmm.
The light rev can single-handedly murder any chance you have at actually completing the run.
It is
Oh,
painful.
that also reminds me, Zinnia-sama brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Lock effects are also stupid. This is why, and I think that we will discuss this if we ever do a DBB video.
Mm-hmm.
Use vanilla DBB.
Mm-hmm.
Vanilla DBB, as we have found, is incredible
Mm-hmm.
because the synergy for it is Nova,
Mm-hmm.
which removes lock effects and then has a certain percentage chance of negating said lock effects
That's a big deal.
for a set number of turns. And Fury doesn't decrease that duration, which means that once we get like higher bond levels and are able to get it up to like guaranteed null of locks,
Mm-hmm.
then you should be able to just kind of bypass part of the challenge of Fury. You won't be able to bypass it entirely,
Mm-hmm.
but at the very least, you'll get him to burn actions every turn, attempting to lock something that's immune to it.
Yeah. On top of that, it also offers, I believe, 500% crit damage, which is awesome because you'll cap crit and a lot of the time you have trouble capping crit with, especially with the Chizuru squad, without crit leads. Vanilla is going to be one of your crit leads, but on top of that, you're missing some. And so, if you're not running dual vanillas, then you're going to not cap crit. And with vanilla DBB, that then enables you to cap crit, which just boosts the shit out of your damage again.
You also get evasion, and I think it adds a big heal over time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Much as that matters.
Yeah.
I don't know. The point is that vanilla is currently the best because of no. That does not mean that Aurelia and Ultor DBB is viable because it has Nova, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though that is, you could technically launch Nova with an Aurelia DBB, really don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can if you absolutely have to.
But why? Why would you run Aurelia?
Because some people don't have Chizuru. I don't know.
Pain. Yeah, that's viable. I mean, the other thing that I'll say about Dichroma is that just don't sweat it if you can't beat it. You'll get there eventually, and it's gonna frustrate the hell out of people if you're asking for carries in places that don't do carries.
The strategies that we have come up with for Dichroma were tested through blood, sweat, and blood.
Exactly. There were no tears. We're men, but there was a whole lot of blood. Fury's blood and the blood of my dead teams all the time. There was a time when everyone was getting to a point where they were losing all of their lives or all but one of their lives. And now we've kind of refined theories and strategies to the point where I personally survive the whole time. Usually I end it with 3 lives.
Now we can lose all but one of our lives efficiently.
Exactly. So yeah, essentially, to sum that all up, because I think we're done with talking about Dichroma, but to sum that all up, Fury is a big bundle of RNG, and your job is to mitigate that RNG bullshit as much as you possibly can. While also beating the crap out of it.
You're to rip and tear. Start now.
Yeah, rip and tear. Straight up. Do it. I think that just about covers it. That's
all of the RC7 raids, but I know that the novice raid existed and then phased out of existence. I'll go ahead and briefly mention that was... I honestly never did novice mission. Did you ever do novice mission?
Never once.
Oh. So, none of us actually know what... Isn't there a sphere that adds spark heals to BB and SBB? Yes, ironically, Eye Patch Mask does that, but you really wouldn't want to do...
Yeah, Eye Patch Mask is not a great sphere, as we covered in the last episode. I think that's it. I mean, novice missions exist, but I think they were just easier versions to get the geodes, and now the geodes are in the regular Raid Bazaar, so...
I remember the novice mission, even though I never did it, I saw other people screenshots of it. They just looked like random amalgamations of different elemental bosses, and the only element that cared about the element in them, because that's all you had to do to get the token.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I think
that's gone now.
Yeah, so. It's gone. It's dead. I think that just about covers it, though. There is the promotion missions, but those really don't matter, because if you're...
Those are RC6 anyway, so
basically. They don't count. You don't count. You're not part of this. But that's it for
also
RC7.
The missions before the level 2s, but...
those might as well not exist.
Incredibly easy compared to level 2, so we bother mentioning them. Any team that would work for level 2 is going to work on any of the previous levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, other than that, there's really not a whole lot to cover content-wise. Use your Aura B shards to buy the spheres that go for the extra skills for the units, because they're good, especially if Rana's calling. Get that one first.
Yes.
So...
And then the rest.
Yeah, that's it. That is RC7 in a nutshell, and... my hope is that this weekend I'll have time to do a bunch of Dichroma testing, get a video out on our strategies for Dichroma, what that looks like, what we do with some actual gameplay. I know I've been promising gameplay for forever, but I'm hoping that we can get some actual gameplay in here now.
That would be nice.
That'd be great. So, that's it. You got any closing comments, Faf?
This podcast is sponsored by Steve.
Wow, you just hit a huge lag spike.
But you serious? I've got to do it again.
Yeah, that was the most convenient lag spike ever. I went to 6,000 ping as you were saying that. Go ahead. That was impressive.
This podcast is sponsored by Steve. Did you get
Yeah, I mean, you lagged again, but, we got the Steve part, so that's good enough.
Awesome.
All right, cool. Sorry about all the lag today, guys. I don't know what's going on. I promise it'll be fixed by the next episode. Closing comments from me. Check out the description. There's some cool links in there. Patreon link, Twitch link. I'll leave a link to the wiki, because that's an awesome resource, and I do a bunch of work on that, and I love the wiki. Other than that, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will catch you later.